The sky over New Horizon Colony had two suns, one big and orange, one small and yellow. Lisa Collins liked to watch them rise each morning from her bedroom window. Today was supply run day. At 16, she was old enough to help with colony chores. "I'll be back by dinner, Dad," she said, grabbing her supply checklist. Her father, Major Frank Collins, nodded without looking up from his tablet. "Keep your comm on," he said. It was the same thing he always said. Lisa rolled her eyes. "I know, Dad. I always do." The supply depot was only 2 miles from the main colony. Lisa enjoyed the walk through the alien grasslands. The blue-green grass made soft sounds in the wind. Birds that weren't really birds flew overhead. She took pictures of new flowers to add to her collection. When Lisa didn't return by sunset, Major Collins tried her comm. No answer. He tried again. Still nothing. "Something's wrong," he told his second-in-command, Sergeant Alan Peters. Lisa never turns off her comm. Within an hour, 50 colonists were searching the path to the supply depot. Major Collins led the main team. "We found her backpack, sir," a voice called over the radio. "Near the creek bend." Collins ran to the location. Lisa's backpack sat in the dirt. Her comm lay broken nearby. A scan showed unknown footprints in the soil. "Get me the security footage from the depot," Collins ordered. Back at the colony center, they watched the grainy video. Lisa had never reached the depot. A camera on the path showed something that made Collins's blood freeze. A tall figure in dark armor grabbed Lisa from behind. She fought hard, but the attacker was too strong. The camera caught a clear view of the attacker's face when he turned. "That's a Krelax," Sergeant Peters said quietly. "One of their mercenaries." Everyone knew about the Krelax. 7 feet tall with gray-green skin and 4 eyes. Famous for their work as hired killers for the Halturian Trade Confederation. "Why would a Krelax take my daughter?" Collins's voice was like ice. The search expanded. Colony ships scanned from orbit. Military teams went out with tracking equipment. For 3 days and nights, they searched. On the 4th morning, a colonist's scream echoed through the comm system. They had found Lisa's body in a shallow cave 5 miles from the colony. The medical team didn't want Collins to see her. He pushed past them anyway. What the Krelax had done to his daughter couldn't be described as just killing. The alien had cut her open, examined her organs, taken samples. Notes in an alien language were carved into her skin. "He was experimenting on her," Dr. Susan White said, her voice shaking, like she was just a lab animal. That night, Major Collins sent all the evidence to Earth High Command. The images, the autopsy results, everything. His message was simple. My daughter Lisa Collins was taken and killed by a Krelax mercenary. The Halturian Confederation must answer for this. Earth's response came quickly. They demanded the Halturian Trade Confederation find and punish the killer. The Halturians sent back a short message. "We have reviewed your complaint about our citizen Frock. His actions, while unfortunate, were merely scientific curiosity about a primitive species. No formal action will be taken." Collins read the message twice. Then he did something that broke every protocol. He sent Lisa's autopsy data to every human colony in known space. All 43 of them. The images of what the alien had done to his daughter. The dismissive Halturian response. Within days, the anger spread across human space like wildfire. Protests erupted on Earth and all colonies. News channels showed nothing else. People demanded action. In her office in Geneva, President Eleanor Grant watched the public anger grow. She had been patient with the alien confederations for years. That patience had just run out. "Prepare a special session of Parliament," she told her staff. "It's time humanity showed the galaxy that we will not be dismissed." President Eleanor Grant stood before the United Earth Parliament. The large room was packed. Every seat filled. No one spoke. The anger in the room was a living thing. "Members of Parliament," she began, "you have all seen the evidence from New Horizon Colony. You have all seen what the alien mercenary did to Lisa Collins, a 16-year-old girl who wanted to study plants. On large screens around the room, Lisa's school photo appeared, a smiling girl with dark hair and bright eyes. The Halturian Trade Confederation has dismissed this murder as scientific curiosity about a primitive species. They have called us primitive. President Grant paused. Today, we will show them how wrong they are. Major Frank Collins watched the speech from New Horizon Colony. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. His hands shook slightly. This is not just a murder, President Grant continued. This is a statement about how the galaxy views humanity. Today, we answer. Parliament voted right away. No one opposed the Collins resolution. It called for the full mobilization of Earth's military forces. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. Admiral John Reeves was named Supreme Commander. He was a quiet man known for careful planning. He had gray hair and steady hands. We will not rush, he told his officers. We will not make mistakes. We will be precise. And we will be overwhelming. Across Earth and all colonies, military forces prepared. Ships were loaded. Weapons were checked. Soldiers said goodbye to families. On a distant planet called Troll, the Krelax mercenary named Frak sat in a crowded bar. He had 4 eyes, tough gray-green skin, and stood 7 feet tall. Other aliens moved away from him. Krelax were feared across the galaxy. The human specimen was interesting. Vrak told another mercenary, "Their organs are simple, but they feel pain in unusual ways. I heard they're angry about it," the other mercenary said. Vrak laughed, a harsh sound like rocks falling. What will they do? Humans are weak. They talk about peace and rules. They have a few colonies and think they matter. Unknown to Vrak, a human sat at the far end of the bar. He looked like a traitor with worn clothes and rough hands, but he was Agent Paul Davis of Earth Intelligence. He recorded everything Vrak said and sent it directly to Earth. Admiral Reeves received the information in his command center on Earth. We have confirmation. The mercenary shows no regret, and we have his current location. President Grant sent one final message to the Halturian Trade Confederation. We demand justice for Lisa Collins. Hand over the mercenary Vrak for trial under human law. The Halturian response was quick. We do not recognize human authority to try citizens of other worlds. This matter is closed. President Grant read the message and nodded to Admiral Reeves. The matter is not closed. It has just begun. On Mars orbit, the largest human fleet ever assembled took shape. 500,000 soldiers, 247 warships, over 1,000 support vessels, 15,000 fighters. Major Collins was assigned to lead Shadow Team Alpha, a special forces unit that would go in first. Their mission: find Vrak. This isn't about revenge, Admiral Reeves told the troops in his final address. This is about establishing humanity's place in the galaxy. After today, no one will dare call us primitive again. The ships began to move toward the recently discovered wormhole network that would take them to Halturian space. On Earth and all colonies, people watched and waited. Halturian intelligence noticed unusual activity in human space. Analysts reported to their superiors. The humans are moving ships, more than normal. Just exercises, a Halturian commander said. They do this sometimes. They are not a threat. The human fleet entered the first wormhole. There was no going back now. On planet Trell, Vrak accepted a new job on a Halturian frontier world. He had already forgotten the human girl. He did not know that 500,000 soldiers were coming for him. The red planet Mars looked small behind the massive human fleet. Ships of all sizes filled the space above it. Soldiers moved between them in transport shuttles. Weapons and supplies were loaded in a steady stream. Major Frank Collins stood at a window on the command ship. His new uniform felt stiff. The patch on his arm showed a black shadow with stars inside it. Shadow Team Alpha. "We're ready, sir," said Lieutenant Kate Ryan. She was his second in command. Her eyes were sharp, and her hair was cut very short. "Good," Collins said. "The team knows what we're looking for." "Yes, sir. The Krelax mercenary Frock. We find him, mark him, and call in the fleet." Collins nodded. In his pocket was a small photo of Lisa. He touched it briefly. Admiral Reeves called all team leaders to the main briefing room, the large space filled with men and women in uniforms. Maps of Halturian space glowed on screens around them. "This is not a normal military operation," Admiral Reeves said. His voice was calm but firm. "We are not fighting for land or resources. We are establishing a principle. The principle that humans cannot be killed without consequences." He showed them images of Vrak taken by Agent Davis in the bar on Trell. "Our intelligence places him on Crethan 4, a frontier world in Halturian space. Major Collins and Shadow Team Alpha will go in first to confirm." New weapons were handed out to all soldiers. They had been designed to work against Krelax biology. "Their skin is tough but sensitive to this frequency," a science officer explained, showing them a new type of sonic gun. "Their 4 eyes give them good vision, but make them vulnerable to this kind of flash grenade." The fleet would travel through the wormhole network in waves. Shadow Team Alpha would go first in a small, fast ship. Then the first battle group of 50 ships. Then the main fleet. "The Halturians have ignored our final message," Admiral Reeves told them. "They believe we are not serious. They are wrong." On a Halturian world called Crethan 4, Varek met with a group of other mercenaries. They were planning a raid on a mining colony. The Krelax was not hard to spot in the group. He was taller than the others, with his gray-green skin and multiple eyes. "The pay is good," he told them, "and these miners will not fight back. Easy work." Unknown to him, human hackers had already broken into the Halturian defense networks. They planted hidden programs that would shut down weapon systems when needed. They copied star maps and defense plans. They learned the schedules of patrol ships. Earth ships that looked like normal traders asked all human merchants to leave Halturian space. Most did. Those who couldn't were given emergency beacons. Shadow Team Alpha boarded their ship, the Nightshade. It was small and painted black. Its engines were quiet. Its hull absorbed sensor scans. It could hide in plain sight. "Remember your training," Collins told his team of 12 Special Forces soldiers. "We go in silent. We find Frock. We mark him. We wait for the fleet." The Nightshade entered the wormhole first. The trip took only minutes, but it felt like forever to Collins. On the other side was Halturian space, enemy territory. Admiral Reeves watched from the command ship as the first wave of the fleet prepared to follow. 5 minutes until the first battle group enters the wormhole, an officer reported. "Any response from the Halturians to our presence?" Reeves asked. "No, sir. They still don't seem to know we're coming." Reeves nodded. "They will soon enough." In his quarters, he looked at the picture of Lisa Collins that her father had given him. Just a normal girl. She had liked to study plants. She had died screaming under an alien's knife. "This will not happen again," Reeves said quietly. "Not to any human." The first battle group entered the wormhole. The largest military operation in human history had begun, and somewhere on a frontier world, a Krelax mercenary still had no idea what was coming for him. The planet Crethan 4 had 3 small moons and rings of purple dust. The Nightshade slipped past the Halturian patrol ships without being seen. Its black hull absorbed the scan beams. Its engines ran cool and quiet. Major Collins and Shadow Team Alpha landed in a desert area 20 miles from the main settlement. The air was thin but breathable. 2 suns made the sand hot under their boots. "Activate heat shields," Collins ordered. The team turned on their suit cooling systems. "Move out. Stay low." They walked for hours, avoiding the roads and settlements. Their suits changed color to match the sand. From a distance, they were almost invisible. Lieutenant Ryan checked her tracker. "Sir, the target is in the main settlement, a place called the Golden Spike. It's a meeting spot for mercenaries." Collins nodded. We'll go in after dark. When night fell, the team entered the settlement from different directions. It was a rough place with low buildings and dirty streets. Aliens of many kinds moved through the streets. Music and loud voices came from the bars. The Golden Spike was the largest building with lights and guards outside. Collins and Ryan watched from a rooftop across the street. 12 guards, Ryan whispered. 4 at the front, 4 at the back, 4 inside. Collins touched his comm. Team positions. Team 1 in position on the east, came the reply. Team 2 in position on the west. Team 3 covering the back exit. Collins looked through his scope. Inside, he could see Vrak sitting at a large table with other mercenaries. The Krelax was laughing and drinking. I have visual on the target, Collins said into his comm. Sending coordinates now. He sent the exact location to the U.S. Vigilant, a stealth destroyer that had followed them through the wormhole. The ship was in orbit, invisible to Halturian sensors. Coordinates received, came the reply from the Vigilant. Strike package ready. Waiting for your command. Collins took a deep breath. Execute strike. From orbit, a single missile dropped toward the planet. It fell like a stone, no thrusters, no heat signature. In its final seconds, small fins guided it precisely to its target. The Golden Spike exploded in a ball of fire. The blast was focused, destroying only the building and nothing else. Where the bar had been, there was now only a smoking crater, but something moved in the ruins. Collins zoomed in with his scope. Target survived, he said, his voice tight. He's injured but moving. Vrek crawled from the wreckage, his gray-green skin burned and bleeding. 2 of his 4 eyes were damaged. He staggered to his feet and began to run. All teams, move in, Collins ordered. Capture only. I repeat, capture only. Shadow Team Alpha closed in from all sides. But before they could reach Vrak, Halturian security forces arrived. They helped the injured Krelax into a vehicle and sped away. Sir, we've lost the target, Lieutenant Ryan said. Collins nodded. But now, they know we're here. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small metal disc. He placed it in the center of the smoking crater. The disc projected a hologram. Lisa Collins, age 16. Within an hour, Halturian forces swarmed the area. They found nothing but ashes and the message. On the Halturian homeworld, the High Council met in emergency session. A human strike. One counselor asked in disbelief. On one of our worlds. The target was a single mercenary, another said. Why would they risk war for one Krelax? A message arrived from their border outposts. Human ships were coming through the wormholes. Not 1 or 2, but hundreds. In orbit around Crethan 4, Collins watched from the nightshade as the first wave of human forces arrived. 100,000 soldiers in 50 warships spread out across the Halturian frontier. Admiral Reeves' voice came over all channels, being broadcast on all frequencies across Halturian space. We only want the mercenary. Stand aside or share his fate. The first wave of human forces secured 7 Halturian worlds in less than a day. They met little resistance. Most Halturians simply fled. Major Collins received new orders. Find Vrak. The hunt continues. Vrak looked at his burned skin in a dirty mirror. 2 of his eyes were damaged beyond repair. Pain shot through his body with every movement. The Halturian doctor had done what he could, but Krelax were hard to treat. Why are the humans hunting you? The doctor had asked. Vrak hadn't answered. He was starting to understand his mistake. The human girl had just been a test subject to him, a way to learn about their biology. He hadn't expected this response. Now he sat in a small ship heading deeper into Halturian space. Reports came in about human forces taking over Halturian worlds one by one. Each conquered outpost received the same message. Surrender Vrak and we withdraw. The Halturians were not fighting hard. Many simply ran when human ships appeared. Their military was spread too thin, their response too slow. They won't protect you much longer, the ship's pilot told Farak. The humans are too many, too angry. Take me to my clan, Farak said. His voice was rough from smoke damage. On Kredak Moon, my people will protect me. The pilot nodded, but his eyes showed doubt. Even the Krelax might not want to face the human fleet. On the human command ship, Admiral Reeves studied the map of Halturian space. 7 worlds secured. The path to the Halturian homeworld was open. Deploy the second wave, he ordered. 200,000 more troops entered Halturian space through the wormholes. Their targets were the space stations and defense platforms around the Halturian homeworld. Major Collins and Shadow Team Alpha received new intelligence. The target is heading for Kredak Moon, Collins told his team. It's a Krelax stronghold. Lieutenant Ryan studied the images of the moon. It's barely habitable. Thin air, extreme temperatures. But the Krelax have a fortress there, built into the rock. Very old and very strong. Collins nodded. Then that's where we're going. Across the galaxy, alien news networks showed footage of Earth's massive fleet. Other species watched in shock. The humans have sent 500,000 soldiers to capture one mercenary, a news anchor reported. No one expected this level of response. On many worlds, leaders began to reassess their views of humans. What they had seen as a weak, peaceful species now showed a different face. A species that would cross the stars with an army to avenge one death. On Kredak Moon, Varak met with the leaders of his clan. 20 Krelax sat in a stone chamber deep in the fortress. They listened as he explained his situation. The humans want me because I killed one of their young, Varak said. They are overreacting. It was just science. The clan leader, an old Krelax named Drak, shook his head. You have brought a war to our door, Varak. The humans have taken 7 Halturian worlds just to find you. Will you protect me or not? Varak demanded. Drak was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You are Krelax. We do not surrender our own. But know this, if we die here, it is because of your mistake. The clan began to prepare the fortress for a siege. Weapons were brought out of storage. Force fields were activated. Food and water were stockpiled. Shadow Team Alpha's ship approached Kredak Moon carefully. They used the rings of a nearby gas giant to hide their approach. Scans show the fortress is powered up, Lieutenant Ryan reported. They're expecting company. Collins nodded. We need to confirm Varak is inside before we call in the fleet. He looked at his team. We go in quiet. Just recon. No engagement unless necessary. The team landed at night, far from the fortress. The air was thin and cold. The ground was rocky and barren. They moved slowly toward the massive stone structure built into the side of a mountain. From orbit, human ships watched and waited. The third and final wave of troops was ready. 200,000 more soldiers surrounding the moon completely. Admiral Reeves sent a message to the Krelax fortress. This is your only warning. Surrender Varak to us, or we will take him. The response was brief. This is our sacred ground. We will all die before surrendering one of our own. President Grant, watching from Earth, gave her final order. Then they have chosen the path of the Krelax mercenary. The Krelax fortress on Kredak Moon was ancient. Its walls were cut from the living rock of the mountain thousands of years ago. Weapons had been added over the centuries. Laser cannons, shield generators, missile launchers. It had never fallen to an enemy. Major Collins and Shadow Team Alpha watched from a ridge 2 miles away. Their suits changed color to match the gray rocks around them. Those walls are at least 30 feet thick, Lieutenant Ryan said, looking through her scope. And the only entrance is heavily guarded. Collins studied the fortress. There has to be another way in. Check the old maps again. Ryan pulled up the scans they had taken from orbit. There might be something. Old tunnels under the mountain. They might connect to the fortress. Collins nodded. That's our way in. We need to confirm Varak is in there before the fleet arrives. Inside the fortress, Varak paced in his room. His wounds hurt, but fear hurt more. Through small windows, he could see human ships appearing in the sky. More and more of them, surrounding the moon. Clan leader Drak entered without knocking. "Come, we are holding a war council." In a large chamber deep in the fortress, 20 Krelax warriors stood around a stone table. They fell silent when Varak entered. "The humans have deployed their third wave," Drak said. 200,000 more troops. They surround us completely." A young warrior named Krell slammed his fist on the table. "All this for one human child. It makes no sense. Their species numbers in the billions. Why do they care about one death?" "It is their way," an older warrior said. "They value each life. Not like us." Varak looked at the tactical displays showing the human fleet. So many ships, so many soldiers, all for the girl he had killed. Outside the fortress, Shadow Team Alpha found an entrance to the old tunnels. It was hidden behind rocks at the base of the mountain, far from the main entrance. "These tunnels haven't been used in centuries," Collins said as they entered. The air was stale and thick with dust. Their lights cut through the darkness ahead. "Motion sensors off," Collins ordered. "Sound dampeners on." We moved slow and careful. The tunnels twisted and turned inside the mountain. Some had collapsed. Others were so narrow they had to crawl. After hours of careful movement, they found themselves under the fortress. "Life signs above us," Ryan whispered, checking her scanner. "Lots of them." Collins found an old service shaft that led upward. One by one, the team climbed up into the lower levels of the fortress. They moved through storage rooms and abandoned corridors, avoiding patrols. In the command center of the human fleet, Admiral Reeves received a message from President Grant. "Do we have confirmation of the target?" "Not yet," Reeves replied. "Shadow Team Alpha is inside the fortress now. We're waiting for their signal." The president nodded. "When you have confirmation, you are authorized to begin the siege. Full force." Shadow Team Alpha reached a ventilation shaft that looked down into the war room. Collins carefully positioned a small camera through the grate. "I have visual on Varak," he whispered into his comm. "Sending images now." The images showed Varak standing with the Krelax leaders around the table. His wounds were visible, but he was alive and moving. "Target confirmed," Collins reported. "Varak is in the fortress. Repeat, target confirmed." In the command ship, Admiral Reeves received the confirmation. "Begin the siege," he ordered. From orbit, precision weapons struck the fortress's outer defenses. Laser cannons and shield generators exploded in balls of fire. The mountain shook with each impact. Inside the fortress, alarms blared. The Krelax ran to battle stations. Clan leader Drak turned to Varak. "They have found you," he said. "Now we all pay for your crime." Shadow Team Alpha felt the fortress shake around them as the bombardment continued. Collins checked his scanner. "Something's wrong," he said. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings from the center of the fortress." Lieutenant Ryan analyzed the data. "Sir, it looks like a biological weapon." Collins's face hardened. "Varak is planning a suicide attack. He's going to take as many humans as he can with him." The siege of the Krelax fortress had begun, but it was now a race against time. The human fleet filled the sky above Kredak Moon. Dropships descended through the thin atmosphere, carrying soldiers in battle armor. They landed all around the fortress, setting up positions on every ridge and valley. Inside the fortress, Shadow Team Alpha moved carefully toward the center. They had to find the biological weapon before Varak could use it. "All teams, begin assault," Admiral Reeves ordered from orbit. The ground shook as human forces attacked the fortress from all sides. Heavy weapons blasted the outer walls. Special teams used cutting tools on the weaker sections. The sound was deafening. Krelax defenders fought back hard. They fired energy weapons from positions along the walls. They dropped explosive devices on the attacking humans. Both sides took losses. "We need to move faster," Collins told his team. The attack will keep the Krelax busy, but Farak might trigger the weapon early if he feels cornered. They reached a large door marked with Krelax warning symbols. Lieutenant Ryan scanned it. "Strong energy readings from inside," she said. "This is it." Collins placed small charges around the door lock. "Stand back." The explosion was small but effective. The door swung open, revealing a laboratory. In the center stood a large container filled with glowing blue liquid. "The bioweapon," Ryan said, scanning it. "It's designed to target human DNA. If it releases, it could kill every human on this moon." Farak was at a control panel on the far side of the room. He turned when they entered, his 4 eyes widening in surprise. "How did you get in here?" he hissed. "It's over, Farak," Collins said, pointing his weapon. "Step away from the controls." The Krelax laughed, a harsh sound. "Nothing is over. Did you think I would let you take me? I have studied humans. I know what you would do to me." Outside, the battle intensified. Human forces breached the outer walls in 3 places. Krelax defenders fell back to inner positions. The fortress that had never fallen was beginning to crumble. Farak pressed a button on the control panel. Red lights began to flash. A computer voice spoke in the Krelax language. He started the release sequence. Ryan said, checking her scanner. "We have 5 minutes before the weapon deploys." Collins spoke into his comm. "Admiral, the target has armed a bioweapon. Request immediate extraction of all ground forces." "Negative," Admiral Reeves replied. "We can't let that weapon deploy. You need to stop it." Collins turned to his team. "Stevens, Jones, watch Farak. The rest of you, help me find a way to shut this down." They moved to the control panels, studying the alien technology. Ryan connected her scanner to try to translate the symbols. "Even if you stop the weapon, you will never leave this fortress alive," Farak said. "My clan will fight to the death." At that moment, the door to the laboratory burst open. Clan leader Drak entered with 5 Krelax warriors. "What have you done?" Drak demanded, seeing the active weapon. "What was necessary?" Farak replied. "These humans must learn fear." Drak looked at the bioweapon, then at the humans. His face showed disgust. "This is not our way," he said. "We fight our enemies face to face. We do not poison them like cowards." He turned to Collins. "If I help you stop this weapon, will you spare my clan?" Collins hesitated only a moment. "Yes, we only want Farak." "No," Farak shouted. He pulled a hidden weapon and fired at Drak. The clan leader fell, wounded. In the confusion, Shadow Team Alpha and the Krelax warriors both fired at Farak. The Mercenary was hit multiple times but still managed to reach the bioweapon container. "If I die, I take you all with me," he said, reaching for the release valve. Collins fired one perfect shot. It hit Farak in the head, between his upper eyes. The Mercenary collapsed before he could open the valve. The countdown continued. 3 minutes remained. "I can stop it," Drak said, holding his wounded side. "Help me up." 2 Krelax warriors lifted their leader to the control panel. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. "Come on," Collins whispered. With 30 seconds left, the red lights turned green. The computer voice spoke again. "Weapon deactivated," Ryan said, checking her scanner. "We're safe." Across the fortress, the fighting was slowing down. Many Krelax had surrendered when they learned their leader had made a deal with the humans. Collins looked down at Farak's body. It's finally over. 3 days after the battle, the Krelax fortress was quiet. Human ships filled the sky above it. Medical teams treated the wounded from both sides. Engineers made sure the structure was safe. Major Collins stood in a small room where Farak's body lay in a containment unit. Admiral Reeves had just arrived from orbit. "Is it really him?" Reeves asked. Collins nodded. "DNA confirmed. This is the Mercenary who killed Lisa." "You had him in your sights," Reeves said. "You could have killed him right away. Why didn't you?" Collins looked at the dead Krelax. I wanted him to face justice. Real justice, not just a quick death. He almost released that bioweapon. Yes, but we stopped him. Collins touched a small photo of Lisa in his pocket. What happens now? Admiral Reeves looked out a window at the human ships. The president wants Farak's body brought back to Earth. There will be a public trial, even though he's dead. The galaxy needs to see our justice. In the fortress's main hall, clan leader Drac met with human officers. His wounds were bandaged, but he stood tall. My clan accepts the terms, he said. We will surrender the fortress and all weapons. In return, my people will be allowed to leave with their personal belongings. The human officer nodded. Agreed. Earth has no quarrel with the Krelax people, only with one criminal. Drac looked at the officer. Your species is strange to us. You sent 500,000 soldiers across the stars for one death. We would not do the same. That is why you will never truly understand us. The officer replied. On the Halturian homeworld, the High Council signed a peace treaty with Earth. They agreed to pay for damages to New Horizon Colony. They also agreed to recognize human sovereignty in all their territories. We misjudged the humans, one counselor said after the signing. We thought their kindness was weakness. Another counselor nodded. A species that crosses the galaxy with an army to avenge one child is not to be taken lightly. 2 weeks later, Farak's body arrived on Earth. A special court was set up in Geneva. The trial was broadcast to every human colony and many alien worlds. Evidence was shown. Witnesses spoke. Lisa's autopsy images were displayed. The court found Farak guilty of murder and crimes against humanity. Major Collins attended the trial with his team. When it was over, President Grant spoke with him. What will you do now, Major? She asked. I'll go back to New Horizon, he said. There's still work to be done there. Your daughter would be proud of you, President Grant said. Collins wasn't sure about that. He had led an army across the stars for revenge. Was that something to be proud of? But he kept those thoughts to himself. 1 year later, a memorial was built where Lisa Collins had died. It became the site of a new galactic embassy on New Horizon. Representatives from 12 alien species came to the opening ceremony. Major Collins, now the colony's governor, cut the ribbon. This building stands as a reminder, he told the crowd. A reminder that humans will always defend their own. But also a reminder that justice, not revenge, is our highest value. Across the galaxy, perceptions of humans had changed. They were no longer seen as a weak, peaceful species. Now they were known as a people who would cross the stars with an army to defend one of their own. Admiral Reeves, about to retire, gave a final address to the troops returning home. Today, the galaxy has learned that humanity stands united. Every human life has value. And we will cross the stars to defend our own. The troops cheered, but many had mixed feelings. They had won the war. They had captured the criminal. But Lisa Collins was still gone. No army could bring her back. As the ships returned to Earth, a small group visited Lisa's grave. They left flowers and a model of the starship that had carried them across the galaxy to find justice for a girl who had only wanted to study plants.